Arsenal podcast. Welcome to another podcast by Guns and Yellow Ribbons. Enjoy the show.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to another episode of Guns and Yellow Ribbons, an Arsenal podcast by Arsenal fans for Arsenal fans. We're back. It's 23-24 season. It's a preview. We're going to look over the American tour. We're going to look at the transfers so far. I'm going to catch up with Alex because it feels like I haven't seen you in at least maybe 2 weeks. Trev, as always, we speak to each other, as I said before, probably more than I speak to my wife sometimes.
Yeah.
And a special guest in the house, Calimera, all the way from LA. Highbury squad, Sophie. How are you, Sophie?
Kalimera, Kalispera, Kalinichta. How are you? Hope everyone's good. Thanks for having me on. Very excited to be chatting with you guys. One of my favorite Arsenal podcasts. Here we are.
Very much.
Yeah.
Great compliment.
Thank you, by the way, for all of... I'm steaming up here. It's very hot in Southern California. Not to rub it in any way, you guys, but woof, it's hot today. So if my glasses start steaming, it's not because, I'm with three, Guna hotties right here. Or maybe it is, Trev. Maybe it is. I don't know. Thanks for having me. And thanks for all the great videos that you shared with the Highbury squad last season. Me and Super Kev love them. And Super Kev sends lots of good wishes to each and every one of you.
Thank you very much.
Trev, you can translate all that Greek stuff because you're practically fluent after living out there for a while, aren't you?
I'm forgetting a lot of it, Fergus. But as you know, I loved living in Greece. I'm a bit speechless tonight, actually, which is unusual for me because I admire what Sophie does. I love watching the podcast with Sophie and Kevin. I'm over the moon you've agreed to come and join us, Sophie. Thank you very much indeed. Looking forward to having a chat with you and getting an American perspective on the tour that we've just had there. Be interesting, a fan's view of that. So, yeah, looking forward to this.
Yeah, good stuff.
Okay, so Alex, how are we? We haven't chatted for probably about 2 weeks since I last left Denmark. I think the last time we sat down and spoke. Sorry, I'm multitasking here, and you know what? It's just not a good thing. This is us. This is us. Me and my good wife, your dad, and yourself, on the Baltic Sea, and we were enjoying the summer in Denmark. What a good few days that was.
That was lovely, and it was nice for you and Jack to come over and see Denmark and see where I come from and have some of that Danish beer. So we had a lovely few days.
Yeah, I'll eventually get to be able to pay for it. My credit card bill is still bill, but
it is a bit expensive over here. Yeah,
it is. I think my quote to people is 2 burgers, 2 beers, 50 quid, and everyone goes, "What?" Even Sophie's eyes popped.
Wow, so it's more expensive than London and Los Angeles and New York. It sounds like
Well, easy.
Yeah.
The easiest, Sophie. Yeah.
Wow. Crazy.
So
listen, something that's more expensive than Denmark is some of our transfers. 200 million we spent so far on Kyle Havertz, Jurrien Timber, and Declan Rice. Trevor, what's your thoughts on? Let's do them one by one, just for a couple of minutes, not into huge depth because we don't really do transfers as such. But Kyle Havertz, a player that I saw play for Germany and saw him briefly in the Champions League for Bayer Leverkusen. I saw him play poorly under 3 different managers at Chelsea. 65 million is a hefty price tag to have around his head, don't you think?
Yeah, it's an interesting run, Havertz, because I certainly didn't see it coming before. There was no thoughts about it, and it's a simple one for me, really. If we get the Havertz that we know can play so well in Germany and for Germany, then we've got a good buy. But if we see the Havertz that play for Chelsea, we might struggle a bit, but I've got every faith in Arteta. I think if Arteta sees something in someone, we've got to trust our manager who hasn't let us down so far. So I'm sure that he wanted Havertz and he's seen something that he can do with him. And I'm quietly confident that he's going to surprise a few people and he's going to do all right for us, Havertz. Fingers crossed.
Alex, you watch an awful lot of the Champions League football and so on. What's your thoughts on the sentence on Havertz then?
Yeah, I think he suits our playstyle very well. Obviously, we needed someone to replace Granit. We knew he was going to leave this summer, so I think his profile suits that sort of role, the left-sided midfielder, very well. We've already seen in preseason his runs into the box. Um, he's very dangerous with his runs into the box. He didn't really get in any continuity in Chelsea under, as you said, like 3-4 different managers. So I think there's still a player there, and I really think that Arteta can fulfill his potential, and I think he'll do well in that left-sided 8 role in our team. So yeah, I think, like Trev said, I think he's going to surprise a few people this season. I think he'll bring more goals than Granit. He's probably not as good on the ball, and he hasn't got the same strength about him. But as Arteta said, he's got physicality in other ways. He's an aerial threat, so I think we'll see a lot of that this season.
Yeah, at 6'1", he definitely has an aerial threat. Sophie,
6'4", yeah.
6'4". Oh wow. Alex mentioned a few different positions at 8, and a forward and midfielder. And where do you see Havertz, or how do you see Havertz fitting in best in the squad?
So a couple of things real quick about the physicality part. I was in the press conference where Mikel was asked about this, and I didn't see Mikel get too defensive the whole time during the US tour with questions, but this was definitely a question where I don't know if he was defending the player or he got defensive, but he literally asked the journalist, well, how tall is Kai Havertz? And then there was a back and forth, and he was basically insinuating through his answer that Kai was stronger even than Xhaka. So I think people are mistaking kind of this lanky, I dare I say Mesut Ozil lazy-esque vibe about him with not being physical enough. I don't think he gets enough credit with what he does off the ball. I think that, in fact, he's exactly the reason why maybe Arteta got him, not only because of his attacking capabilities and his physicality, but also like Gabriel Jesus and what he offered last season early. Everyone was saying Jesus isn't a prolific goal scorer. But as Arsenal fans, we all know how he changed and elevated us with his hustling, his off-the-ball play, how that was infectious and ignited everybody around him. And a lot like Kai Havertz, I don't think he gets credit for that. Second part is C-filed under Kevin De Bruyne and Mo Salah. I've wanted to arc this with Chelsea for a long, long time. Where's the trifecta? Who's that third player? And I believe it's Kai Havertz. Everyone laughed at Liverpool when they bought Mo Salah. Everyone kind of joked about De Bruyne being a Chelsea reject. Now, I'm not saying he's at that point, but this is also a player who scored the winning goal in the Champions League. Now, did they win the Champions League because of Kai Havertz's play overall? No, but they did win the Champions League because Kai Havertz scored a goal. So a little bit like our fans who kind of got crazy when we signed Aaron Ramsdale, Benjamin White, Tomiyasu, throwing their toys out the pram. Just hold the mayo and the mustard, because we need to kind of start thinking 2 players in every position. We saw why we lost the league last season. We didn't have the depth. We couldn't cope with when the injuries hit. Kai Havertz is an experienced Premier League player, and I don't think the Premier League has seen the best of him yet, and hopefully that will be at the Arsenal. And I do believe he has to hit the ground running fast to avoid the narrative, but I also believe in him.
Yeah, you can see that already, and I'd stay away from the Twitter sphere as much as I can, because most of those people know even less about football than I do, and that's saying something. You know what I mean?
He was already in the skill games, wasn't it? People were after him after the volleys challenge.
So I was there that night. I was in the stadium, and I was saying, God, even in the skills challenge, I want him to do well, because I don't want people to get on his back, because he's such an easy target. And we have PTSD when it comes to Chelsea players. Willian is the I don't think David Luiz was as bad as folks make out, but the Willian thing has left everybody feeling a little bit, gassed.
The old Chelsea reject sort of comment keeps on coming up.
I think Jorginho's put that to bed too, though, hasn't he? Like, Jorginho came in. He was worth the 12 million just for the goal at Villa.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
He was, yeah, I definitely. Another one that we brought in off the three was Jurrien Timber. Alex, you again, European football. I didn't know anything of this Jurrien Timber guy. I've seen a bit on YouTube, and for me, he looks very similar in some ways to what Declan Rice, who we'll talk about in a minute, does. He seems to break up the play in the midfield, but his instinct is, I know we can play him at right back, I know we can play him left, right centre back, but what I've seen him play is that pest in the midfield that breaks up the play and goes forward and almost box to box. Alex, what do you know of him?
Yeah, obviously I've seen a bit of him in Ajax in the Champions League, and then where I really noticed him was at the World Cup for Netherlands, where he took over Matthijs de Ligt's place in the starting 11, and he's a very good player. But yeah, he can play. He's very versatile, which is why I think he suits us very well. We know Mikel likes versatile players who can play different positions, and what he does very well is progressive passing. He was one of the guys in Europe with the most progressive passes. He carries the ball very well. He's intense, good in duels, and then he's just lightning quick. We've already seen that in the preseason. So I really feel like we've got a bargain, if you can say that, for a player for 34 million quid. I think it seems like a bargain in today's market for a player like Timber. I think he's gonna become a fan favorite because he's just intense on the pitch, and the way he presses and goes into duels. I think a lot of people are going to like him this season.
And he's got a ready-made song. It's going down.
Yeah, of course.
Straight away. Conscious of time, because I know you've got to jump onto the other side as well, to Highbury Squad for 8. So we've only got you for about another half hour. I'm going to go to Trevor on the next one. Got a bit of an intro for this one. Trevor, what's your
before we go to Riceberg, it's interesting what Sophie said just now. Even though we appeared to have depth across the back of our team last year, there were occasions when we looked a bit short, when we weren't quite sure who was going to play where. And I think Timber is a massive recruit to fill any of that area, and he gives us exactly what we've said we wanted: depth. So I'm looking forward to watching him play. As for Rice, I am so excited about Declan Rice. I've been watching him since he was a kid at West Ham, and you can say to me, yeah, of course you did, Trev. But for the first few games I saw Declan Rice play, I thought to myself, I said to my son, I want to see him at Arsenal one day. He's so good, so cool on the ball, and he makes time for himself, and he just oozes quality. I'm so excited about this signing, Fergus, especially with Xhaka going. I think, he can play any role. He can play the Xhaka role, can Rice, and he can get box to box. So yeah, I didn't think I'd ever envisage us playing £105 million for the lad, but we have, and that's football nowadays. So I'm really glad we got him and nobody else did. And I'm sure. Do you know what? I'm 100% certain that this boy is going to excite us, and he's going to do what we all want to do. He's going to improve our team this year, and that's what we all want to see as fans. Declan Rice is going to improve Arsenal football team wherever he plays. I'm excited for. Can't wait to watch.
I think he's not only going to improve our team. I think he's also going to improve greatly himself, because he's going to be surrounded with better players than he would be. With no disrespect meant at all to West Ham, but he's going to be surrounded by better players. Sophie, we talked about Havertz, we talked about Timber and Rice. I've sent you the video as well, in case you wanted. That's for the WhatsApp that just came through. Does that mean, that there's 3 huge targets that we've got? Clearly, this players going out, which we'll talk about maybe in a minute. There's talks of a keeper coming in. There's talks of cover for Saka coming in. There's even talks about a striker coming in. So, and that would be the 6 players in the 6 areas that I said in a perfect transfer window would to be filled. Does that mean that we genuinely are on for a title challenge, a Champions League challenge, or is it just a season too soon?
I don't think. So here's what I feel Arsenal are doing, and with the owners being the Cronkies, there's, in American sports, they say something called a win now mentality, right? When the Cronkies went after the Super Bowl with the Rams, they had a win now mentality. They threw the kitchen sink at signings. They were unafraid to like bring in the big guns and spend the money. They did the same thing with the Denver Nuggets. You know, they recognizing a situation whereby they know that the championship is at it's so close. So yes, I think we are throwing the kitchen sink at going for it this season, building on last season, because, you know, I think Liverpool have had a very good transfer window. And I think with a manager like Klopp, they'll find a way to be better next season. I think Manchester City are going through another transition season. However, Pep being at the helm will find a way to make that team tick and work this, you know, regardless of the big players that they've lost. Manchester United have strengthened. Now, whether or not that manager is ready for that next phase, we'll find out and we'll see. But for us, absolutely 100%, I feel like with these signings and this investment, we're going for it, and rightly so. And we should try and capitalize on what we built last season. And now we've got players to compete in most positions. Goalkeeper should be the same. Saka's positions should be the same. And I've always felt those two positions are kind of the last that don't really have that competitive edge the way the others do. And I just wanted to touch on Timber. I believe that he will be the signing of the season. This guy is unreal. Wow. My hairs go up talking about him. So not only is he a Jesus infectious kind of player, i.e. his graft, and not only his technical ability, but the way he plays, you can see players respond to him. And funnily enough, off the record, I was speaking to somebody at the club, and because Declan got all of the love in the media and his transfer, rightly so, it's a record transfer. There was someone at the club that was saying to me, I hope Jurriën gets a lot of love because he's very special and the club are very excited about him. And I tell you something, if there's a player that came out of the US tour shining bright in terms of like who we've invested in, he's definitely the one.
I must admit the launch of the kit and the launch of the announcement of Rice did leave Timber just stuck in the corner, which I thought that was. I think he was top of four. They were forced their hand was forced slightly by West Ham making the announcements they did and the protracted transfer that it was. I think they were intending on announcing Rice with the kit on the Monday, but they were forced to do it on the Saturday.
But you know what, Fergus? He will shine where it matters most on the pitch.
On the pitch.
Just watch. Yep. He will. I believe maybe not the first or second game. I do think he will. What's the word? Enforce himself. What's that word I'm looking for? He will be a starter at the Arsenal. Yeah. I don't doubt it.
Well, talking about shining, to be honest, I don't think you're going to miss anybody, especially away from home on the Arsenal pitch. When we've got this kit on, it's the roads of Islington or something like that. And I looked at the map of Islington and it doesn't look anything like that. Obviously, I don't know what mushrooms they were taking in Adidas headquarters in Nuremberg. But Alex, you're young. Maybe you like some sort of weird.
No, I don't like it, and I've seen the one they've done for Man United as well. Don't like that either. So I think they've just had a shocker. But I mean, it's personal preference. I've seen quite a lot of fans get the away shirt. So I mean, some must like it, but personally, I don't really like it. No.
Trevor, it would bring you back to your time on the railways, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I love it. I love that shirt. I've ordered it. It's coming. If it comes, I'm wearing it to Wembley next week. Definitely.
Jesus Christ, that would be a big neon sign, wouldn't it?
So you guys lived through the bruised banana, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember how much everyone hated the bruised banana when it came out?
And Super Kev said to me when it was called a chevron at the time.
Super Kev said to me, when you see Trev and Fergus, say to them, do you remember how everyone hated the bruised banana and what happened that season?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a good comment by Dale as well. Kids don't define teams, teams define kids. So,
oh wow, well done, Dale.
Yeah. Well done.
Dale clearly been off the sauce all summer because his brain cells have come back. We'll sort that out. We'll sort that out on Sunday.
I'm going to talk a little bit cryptically here and with a smile on my face, but as Sophie just said, if our new signings are shown the love, they'll shine, and they will shine, and our fans will give them all the love they need at the Emirates if they're allowed to, of course. You know, we don't know what might happen, but our new signings will get the full support. Everybody's excited about it. What, you know, as an older fella, I went years after Wenger won his last trophies, and we had the odd FA Cup. But I went season after season thinking at the start of the season, what we're going to do, how good are we going to be? We never signed anyone in a transfer window from a last minute panic buy, you know. But last season, and particularly this season now, I can't wait for it to start, because I know, this is why I just said it was a silly question, Ferg. Well, you know, I always have, it wouldn't be a podcast if I didn't have a go at you. I know that we can win this league this year. I know that we're good enough. If we keep our best players fit, yeah, and Arteta leads them like we know he can, we'll challenge for that league. And it'd be interesting to get a view here. I think it's going to be a very close league this year, because if you look at last season, Chelsea didn't do much. Liverpool didn't do much. Man United only came good towards the end of the season, but just scraped into Europe. And those teams don't normally have 2 or 3 bad seasons in a row. They normally put it right. And Chelsea are buying, Man United are buying, Liverpool are buying, Arsenal are buying. Manchester City, as you rightfully said, Sophie, are going through a bit of a transition, but even their transitions are going to be top notch, you know. I think it's going to be a very close run thing for the Premier League this year. I think top teams are going to beat top teams, and top teams are going to lose to top teams. It's going to be topsy-turvy. And I just hope that we come out at the very top. And we can. We absolutely can. Be excited about it. I certainly am. I can't wait.
We're 20 minutes in and we had Trevor time. Well done, Trev. Well done.
Sorry,
listen,
sorry,
but you touched on a point there, and I know Sophie touched on this as well on the tour, because you were with the press gang that follow around the teams and everything else. And we'll talk about the tour itself, but it's what you talked about, Trev, already, about the culture within the fans, and what we've built within that stadium over the last 2 or 3 years. The Ashburton Army, a small part, but done a really good job building up right round the stadium. And we talked about, before we came on live, the protest before about the ESL. And the change in heart, and when Josh has got more involved, and the change of belief and culture within the club to spend 200 million, and still to be looking to spend 200 million on the club. But Sophie, you challenged. I'm trying to put this the right way. We asked a question of Arteta, and I'll play it in a second. You asked a question of Arteta, and it's all to do with, you know, we want to build upon what we've already got, in the sense that we want to build on that great atmosphere that the Emirates Stadium became. The 12th man. It became that people used to call us the Highbury Library, but people were talking about Arsenal as the place that, whoa, hang on, they've got a voice. They make some noise. Christ, I've never heard a place go off like when they scored against Bournemouth, the Man United game, the Liverpool game, the North. You just pick it. And on our away support, we got talked about that Newcastle away. Newcastle said they had never heard any away team make the noise that the Arsenal made on the road. And we done that. Myself and Trevor have been 42 out of 49 games for myself. But you asked Arteta about that in relation to ticketing and everything else. I'm going to play the interview, and then I'd like to hear your view on it, because you're big into the culture as well.
Hi there. Hi, Mikel. Thank you for your time today.
Hello.
Hi. You've supplied a great product on the pitch, which means a ton of demand for tickets off the pitch. There was a time where few wanted to be at the Emirates. Ashburton Army helped reinvigorate and revitalise the atmosphere in the stadium, and I know this is something that you've been very passionate about as well. It looks like their tickets might be halved for next season. Of course, lots of fans are going to be upset in terms of not being able to maybe get tickets. What's your take on that? What's your take in particular on Ashburton Army and what they've been able to do in the stadium for the fans on game day, for the experience? Thank you.
Well, you know, I was being very open about the gratitude that we all have to show for the incredible atmosphere that we have produced at the Emirates in the last few years. That's down obviously to a lot of effort that a lot of people has made to maintain and sustain belief in difficult moments, and it's something that we really appreciate. And the other big factor is obviously what this player has transmitted to those supporters to start believing again and start feeling very attached to the team and then to the club. So I know it's going to be some challenges. I think the club is doing and everything that we possibly can to try to please everybody and to be as fair as possible in order to achieve what everybody wants to do. And that's all I can say from my point of view. And hopefully we can continue to build and get the atmosphere better at our place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sophie, great question, by the way.
Thank you. I kept my questions for Mikel throughout the US tour about culture, ethos, Arsenal 2.0, because to me, that's the most fascinating part of his story. And this is coming from somebody who did not believe in him in his first season at all. I saw things that concerned me. And for me, the losing to Emery, the man you replaced in the Europa League semi-final, just didn't sit well. At the same time, I knew, and Kev always said, it's the players, he doesn't have his squad. And then, of course, starting the following season, 0-0-0, it felt to me like maybe this is something that we should be concerned about. However, you know, you eat crow when you're wrong and you acknowledge, you know, that he has completely transformed the trajectory of the Arsenal together with Edu, together with these players. The DNA and the profile of the players is totally different, but also the DNA of the fans has evolved. And why is that? That's because finally we have a team to believe in again. We have players that we love. You can go into the armory and you're actually confused about which name to put on the back of your shirt. Is it Saka? Is it Martinelli? Is it Jesus? Is it Ramsdale? Is it is whoever it is? It's like, wow, it has been years since I've been in this pickle. And yeah, there was a moment where we thought maybe we'd get that back with Alexis Sanchez and Santi, and we had Meza, but we didn't do all the other things that we're doing now. We didn't get the defense right. We didn't get the defensive midfielder right. Did we really have a prolific striker? So there's all these things that go into it. But what's happened at the Arsenal is, this is the reason why I went on this track with him, is because I spoke to Gilberto Silva first before Arsenal landed in DC. And my conversation with Gilberto Silva ended up being about ethos, culture. You know, Gilberto Silva was talking about, I want them to be a bit nastier. I want them to believe. I know they can do better. Look how far we've come. Edu and Mikel can transmit what it means like to be a player, to wear the shirt, to be part of all of that. And I think that as much as we've lauded Mikel and the team for helping transform the stadium atmosphere, the fans deserve, for me, all of the credit, because football is for fans and they will come and go. But you guys have been there since the late 70s. I don't want to age anyone, but the facts are facts. Fans are always going
Trev's
to be
1886.
Sorry, Trev. and that to me was, you can take all the credit, but here we are in a situation where a group that has helped elevate the game day experience to the point where people leave the pub early to go see Ashburton march to the stadium. These things are part of the culture. I've always wanted to hand the baton over. No matter what job I'm in, I want to hand it over to someone, so when I leave, there's a younger person or someone in play who can take over what I've built or helped build and done in order to move on. And I feel that this group is that. They understand the history of Arsenal and they've helped elevate the stadium experience. So my question wasn't about just tapping into a moment. It was furthering the narrative that I personally wanted to discover throughout the tour, based on my conversation with Gilberto Silva, an Arsenal legend and an invincible who's lived through it and has seen the ugly as well, now being an ambassador of the club. And we're in such a beautiful moment that I feel like fans deserve the recognition. Whether you come from the United States to go to a game, South Africa, Australia, we have fans from all over the world. And the fans are everything. And corporate money is always important, and you have to have that in order to kind of fill the coffers so we can go buy Declan Rice. But at the same time, the fans that come to the stadium, they deserve the love too. So that's where I was coming from with the question. And I hope everyone can kind of understand that.
Can I
Trev.
come in on that, please, Ferg?
Yeah.
Just for a second, if you don't mind. Because, Sophie, do you know what? That's how it's lifted. Fans getting together in a group and singing and chanting and doing everything we know that lifts the fans. And the Ashburton Army do need a bit of help because going back to when you just said, the mid-late 70s, the 80s, all the lads would just say, right, I'll meet you on the terrace next week in the middle of the North Bank at 2:30 and we'll get things going. Because there was no tickets. You just walked in and stood in your normal spot and you all stood there and chanted. Well, tickets are that hard to come by nowadays that they can't do that. They can't do that. And if we want to lift the atmosphere like we have, I really think that the Ashburton Army needs some help. It needs a bit of help to get the people they have in there together so that they can lift the atmosphere. And credit's got to go to everybody in the stadium as well, because all around the stadium now, they join in. Upper tier, club level, North Bank, everywhere join in with the singing. And, it's amazing. But the Ashburton Army, as I said, just to reiterate, in the old days, they'd just gone in the ground, stood on the terrace, done. They've done the work themselves. They can't do that now, and they do need a bit of help if we want to keep this atmosphere as
Totally.
good as
And you know what, Trev? I came to a game. You guys were there that night. Remember when we lost to Olympiacos in the Europa League, right?
Unfortunately, I do, yeah.
Yeah. And I was there that night, and I walked away, and I was thinking, oh gosh, it's just bad. As much as Arteta was there, and it was like I felt the stadium wasn't full. It was just still kind of finding its feet, right? And then I've come back since, and I think being away and coming back, you see things differently. It's a little bit like my aunties. When they don't see me for a while, I see them and they're like, oh, you've put on weight. I'm like, thanks, auntie. Thanks for sharing that with me. Or you've lost too much weight, whatever it is. And then I came back. One of my favorite games last season that I went to was Man United away, and we lost 3-1. But what was magical about that? We were losing when we should have won. We were the better team. It was one of those lessons. Like, it was the best loss I think we had last season.
And not our Tierney, the other Tierney.
Sophie, you get it. You absolutely get it. 100%. Man United last season is a prime example. As a fan, I ask the team I go to watch and support to do their very best. If they come off the field having lost, but as at Man United last year, I walk out thinking, well, how did we lose that? They gave everything. I don't ask anymore. And that's what our team has been giving us now these last couple of seasons. And that is why the supporters are so, like myself, just so ready to go to watch a game at Arsenal.
But it was not only Ashburton that day. It was you said it, Trev, every fan. So you could be a baby boomer, you could be a Generation Xer, a millennial, Gen Z, alphas, whatever they're calling them these days, Alex. You can probably tell us more than anyone. That I saw a togetherness. And I was at Highbury. I love being in the North Bank. I didn't like standing at all. Like, that was a one-time experience. That's a whole other story and a whole other show. But the point is, everyone was together, and I went and I saw, even the season before when we played United at home, we won 3-1. Xhaka scored the goal. When Gabriel made the mistake against Fulham, everyone got behind him. He scores the winner. When Saliba scored the own goal, everyone gets behind the players. It's totally, as much as I loved all of those other teams and following those other teams, the fans deserve a lot of credit, because my goodness, it used to be really bad when a mistake was made, but now getting behind a player when they make a mistake, I've never seen anything like that, guys. I haven't.
Alex. Alex, you've been in there many a time. Whether you remember it or not, I don't know, but you have been in there many a time with our Ginger Whinger, who's still resting his voice in Northern Cyprus, not the Greek bit. So we'll move on very quickly at that point. I don't want to get into politics. Alex, as a younger fan and new coming to the club for just a few years, you must have noticed the atmosphere. And then I want to go on to the US tour because we've only got 10 minutes of Sophie.
Yeah, it's just changed so much, and like Sophie said, it seems like everyone's united now as a fan base. I think previous years there was always a divide over. Sometimes it was players, sometimes it was ownership. There's always been like a kind of a divide in the fan base, and it seems like now we've all just gathered around the team, and we've just supported them throughout the last couple of seasons, and we're just so eager to win the title again, and everyone just looks past all previous disagreements or whatever. So, and yeah, the atmosphere is just amazing at the stadium. I love it as much as the games on the pitch. I love everything around the stadium, the pre-match build-up in the concourse and everything. So, yeah, it's just it's amazing.
So, Sophie, the US tour, the squad that went out was quite a substantial squad. There was very few academy players, and I'm not going to try and pronounce that when I put it on the script, Alex, because he knows exactly what I'm going to talk about. Whether I spelled completely wrong, Dewberry, whatever, Conga.
Conga.
Dewberry Conga.
I was making some notes on the plane coming back from Denmark about what things we'll talk about, and I knew it was Dewberry something. It was a double barrel, so on Conga Dewberry, I'll fix that afterwards, and I never did. But the squad that went out there was quite substantial, but there were players that Smith Rowe, Partey, Lokonga, Pepe, Cedric, and Nelson. But Smith Rowe, I was surprised he didn't make it out, especially after his good under-21 season.
I mean, I think it's a good thing, though, no, right, that we're proceeding with caution with Emil Smith Rowe, and he joined the tour late, and he had a great tournament with England. And, he says he's feeling great. There's good word in terms of him feeling, and partly he's been carrying this niggle, as we all niggle. It's actually been a pretty big deal for however long. And I think he's going into this season maybe finally feeling like he's fit again and he can contribute and he's ready for selection. I think people wrote off Emil Smith Rowe a little bit too soon. I even felt like maybe he would be a player we'd cash in on. But clearly he's still part of Arsenal's plan. And I think that he could be an X factor for us. The season before last, he had 10 goals off the bench, right? And I think that he's a player that can contribute. He understands Arsenal. He gets the culture. We've seen him and Saka save us for 2 seasons. And I just don't think a player like Emil becomes bad overnight. So I can see him playing a part this season big time. We've got 2 domestic competitions. We're in the Champions League. We've got the Premier League. There's going to be a lot of football for people to play. And I'm excited to see him back.
Trevor, like me, I didn't watch any of the tour because of the timings and everything else. I know, Alex, you did a little bit for the Gooner fanzine, but Trevor, what was your general thought about an American tour? And I'm type of fishing here for it in a different way for once. Like, it's a second American tour in recent years.
Yeah, well, I didn't watch any of it, mainly because I couldn't stay up at night, Fergus. I'm packing up to move house. If you could see all around me now, it's just boxes and boxes of. I watch the wife isn't listening. Of mainly Arsenal memorabilia.
I was going to say, how many shirts are in there?
And it's all just packed around me. So I slept instead of staying up and watching the American tour. Everybody seems to enjoy it. There's a massive fan base in America. I've watched a couple of games when I've been in New York, and I love the company there. Yeah, and if we're honest, right, we have to be honest. It's where the money is on tour as well. I would assume. I'm not sure about that, but if it makes us a few more million to buy these players we want, then it has to be done in today's day and age. I'm afraid. I can't really talk about this because I can't get Smith Rowe out of my head. Go
on.
I just think that Smith Rowe is gonna surprise a few people this year. I've said that once already tonight, but I'll say it again. I'll go back to when Martinelli was injured a couple of seasons ago. Mikel Arteta was very slow to bring him back into the side. He wasn't getting much time. He was coming off the bench occasionally, much like Smith Rowe did last season, to be honest. And look where we are with Martinelli now. So I'm of the mind that hopefully we're going to see Smith Rowe back to his best next season. He's been nursed because he truly is a talent. You know, I've been watching him since he was a very young lad, and I want to see him playing at his best. And once again, adds to our squad depth. So yeah. As for the American tour, I've got nothing against it, Fergus. I wish I could have gone. I couldn't. If we go again in 2 or 3 years' time, whatever, I will definitely be there.
Spare room for you right here, Trev. Spare room. No problem.
So jealous of all you lot enjoying yourselves. Wasn't jealous of the ticket prices though, Soph. Blimey. Hey?
They milked that, didn't they? Big time.
Ouch.
Yeah,
That was crazy.
they did.
Alex, you watched some of it, doing some player ratings and stuff like that. What did you make of the tour? What did you make of? For me, was it the MetLife, the Man United game?
New York, the New York game.
New York game. There was the pitch. They painted on bits of green. It was a grass pitch on top of an American football AstroTurf underneath, and players. I've got a few clips. Actually, I never loaded them, so I won't even bother putting them on. But players got in really, really heavy with tackles. What did you make of the tour? And are those tackles in the spirit of what a preseason tour should be like? Lots of questions.
Well, the first one, the pitches, I think they got to sort that out for the upcoming World Cup. So they'll have to figure that out because
they'll all be real. There won't be there won't be matrix turf for the World Cup for sure. Yeah,
exactly. I think they weren't looking too good, the pitches. You can see that, but I don't mind us going over to the US. I think the owners got interest, of course. So, and you can see how big of a fan base we've got over there, and it seems like it's just building every year we come over. So I think it's just nice to see. About the tackles and stuff, I wish we wouldn't be playing sort of our rivals during the preseason. I saw Barcelona played Real Madrid as well a couple of days ago, and it was the same there. They were flying in with tackles because I think you can't really control it when you're playing your rivals. It's different when you're playing teams from other leagues, but when you're playing sort of some of your closest rivals, it's just difficult to lower the intensity to a preseason game. Obviously, the Lisandro Martinez one on Saka, I was actually worried there because that was a bad one. But yeah, so hopefully next season we won't have to play Tottenham or like we did last season or Man United.
They would attract anybody.
Magic Mike asked Arteta about the tackle, especially Martinez. And, after they're shaking, he and Timber are shaking hands. And Mikel said it was a good physical, competitive. He was very diplomatic about it,
He was,
how he answered that question.
So, Sophie, conscious you're going, I just want to catch up. We've got some pictures of you here in DC.
Oh, that's brilliant, Sophie.
We got pictures with you with some legend players.
That's Ray and my partner Tony, who met a couple of Invincibles for the first time, and Laurent. Yeah, that was great. They were great. I mean, just such good stuff. The Arsenal America group are just amazing.
And in our spare room in LA.
Yes, that's Stan's house. Which
the SoFi Stadium looked crazy.
I love that everyone got to see it, or a lot of people got to see it.
Yeah.
Without doubt the greatest stadium I think on the planet. I've been to quite a few, and there's no doubt that was amazing. And also, just to touch on the States and why 20% of Arsenal's retail business is from the US. Well. If you didn't see the interview with Vinay on Bloomberg, I encourage you to please go see that, in terms of how he's talking about the business side of the club and why the United States and outside of the UK, it's the biggest market. I have a feeling next season they may try something different. We'll see. But why not? Why not keep coming back to the States? There are cities crying out for the Arsenal to go to. I know that a few of the Arsenal America branches have thrown their hat in the ring. But once again, they pulled off an incredible tour. The fans showed up, and you can see the appetite for football here is massive. You've got Copa America coming here. You've got the World Cup coming here. Messi's here. There's a lot of excitement, and I think Arsenal want a little bit of a slice of that when they can fill the coffers, which only helps us as a club.
Absolutely.
I only asked some of those provocative things about the pitches and so on, just to type of half get a reaction because of the World Cup going there. From what I saw off the tour and seeing all the bits on Twitter and some of the WhatsApp groups that we're all in, because as international as the fan base is, our WhatsApp groups are all very much the same. So seeing some Magic Mike stuff and some of the bits yourself has put up on Twitter and so on, it's been brilliant to see. And some of my friends out there got to go to see some games and they really enjoyed it. I suppose the final question before you part is the Premier League. Would you like to see the Premier League play a game out there, Sophie?
Oh, this is a brilliant question because it has come up a lot. And NFL fans at the start were very angry about a game going to London. And they added an additional game, I think, for this purpose. So we've seen the NBA, they've gone to China. The sport is globalized. Our culture is different, and I think this was the discussion on the ground. How can you take a North London derby out of North London? So what game are you going to do? Is it going to be an Arsenal Burnley? Is it going to be... I think this is why the US tours are so big, and they've tried to make them more competitive. Barcelona are here, Real Madrid are here, AC Milan are here. There's a mini Premier League tournament going on with Villa and Brighton. I know you guys have seen that stuff. I can't see a regular Premier League game being taken out, but do not rule it out in the future. And I see it maybe happening when a Super League comes into play, because I don't think that's gone away either.
The Trolls wanted Norway instead.
I agree. I think that the Champions League will become the European Super League by one way or another in the not too distant future.
That's a great point. I can see a Champions League game being played here before a Premier League game. That's a great point. Yeah, totally.
And if you're going to move a game, Sophie, to America, if anyone's listening from the Premier League, can you move Stoke away, please?
Well, now, okay, so I don't know if my mum's, I only came out with this to Kev a few days ago. My mum's a Stoke City supporter. I kept that quiet during this when they were in the Premier League, right? And she became a Stoke City supporter because when she first moved to England and, she fell in love with Gordon Banks. Like that was, he was the guy, right? My dad supports Man United. I don't know. My brother supports Tottenham and I support Arsenal. I know. And my sister's a Man United. So Christmas Day at our place, Boxing Day football, it's been, public enemy. I've declared war on my family this season. Let's just put it that way. And now Kev's son plays for Stoke. I'm trying to find an alternative for Stoke. So I'm not sure who that is yet. I don't know. Who was that last year? Was it Newcastle? I don't know who it is, but I'm trying to find a silver lining for Stoke because of Super Kev and my mum, and it's been hard to find that, Trev, if I'm being honest.
It's not Sophie. Newcastle. Newcastle's a great trip. I can't think off the top.
We have to find one. We're going to have to figure out who the Stoke substitute is.
Burnley away is one of those. Burnley away is one of those.
Yeah,
it's just long and far away. Sophie, I know you've got to go because you've got to speak to Mr. Ramsdale Senior on the Highbury squad.
Yes.
You're on at 8:00. You're going to delay for 10 minutes so that people can watch the end of the year, aren't you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for having me. Love the show. I love the spirit of your show and that it is really geared towards fans. Fergus and Trev, I know Super Kev adores you. And, to me, you've lived through all the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think it's important that, this show gets to a younger audience too as well, because patience is very important. And sometimes when you tell Arsenal fans, I've learned a lot of lessons. I think my biggest lesson as a fan was in Arteta's first 15 months. And, if you can learn from that and as a broadcaster and also as a fan, I think that's pretty cool. So here we go. We've got a season ahead of us. We can win it. We can win a couple trophies. Why not do a double? Why should we have our hopes diminished just because other people think X, Y, and Z about the Arsenal? It's about what we think about our club and what we can achieve. And at the start of the season, anything is possible. So I believe in this team. Hanging around them was really a gift. Being able to ask Mikel questions was great. seeing the players happy. There is no doubt. I've been part of tours before, guys, and I've seen the Ozil, Mustafi, Kolasinac tour with Wenger.
Oof.
I've seen the tour after that. I've seen Juventus when we wanted to buy Vlahovic and how miserable they looked last season. You get a sense of happiness and vibes. And I couldn't stand myself with like, are they really this happy? Because it's crazy. I've not seen anything like it. So there's definitely a togetherness in this team. And I think anything's possible this season.
Yes,
Love it.
so
And I saw how virulent you were definitely against Arteta, and how you've turned I just watched, and I think like Arteta has changed all our opinions. I wasn't anti him, but I definitely was gone. I'm not sure if a rookie is the right guy there and then at the very start, but he's definitely proved his worth right now. Sophie, thank you very, very much.
Thank you,
Highbury
Fergus.
Squad. If
Thank
anybody
you.
likes
Thank you, Sophie.
to go over there at 8:00, I'll jump in the chat and say hello.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
And-
And just like we've evolved, the managers evolved. And that's why we can move forward too. It's everyone evolves. Even he has too. And I think that's the beautiful thing about it. It feels like everyone's moving towards something together. And I don't think that's happened since maybe 2003, 4, a long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
A message for Nick from myself and Trevor. Trevor will buy him a beer. It's a rare thing, but he will buy him a beer at Palace Away. So we'll say hello when he's at Palace Away.
Oh, listen, 2 seconds before you go, thank you so much. You've made my night tonight, Sophie. You really have. And I promise you, we'll send you a little video from Wembley on Sunday, as we did all last season.
All right. Okay. Are you in on? I love it because, you
You've
know.
got to remember, I will be carrying Fergus because, as usual, he'll be drunk, you know. So for the fact I'm carrying Fergus.
I love it. Well, we're ready for your videos whenever you want to deliver them this coming season. There's no doubt about that.
Thank you,
Brilliant.
Sophie.
Thank you very
Thanks a
much,
lot,
Sophie.
guys. Take
Take
care,
it easy.
Alex.
See you later.
Take
Bye.
care.
thank you, Sophie. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, guys. Bye.
Bye. Well, that was enjoyable. That was
It
enjoyable.
was. Yes. I love fans like Sophie are good because she weren't happy about Arteta. She had an opinion and she rightfully stated that opinion. We all have opinions. But look at her now. She's evolved with the team into an Arteta supporter. And that's all you ask of good fans. That's what good fans do, you know, Ferg. So amazing. Brilliant.
And she's very knowledgeable, and she's good at putting that knowledge into words as well. She's very well spoken. That was
Bit
good.
like me.
Good having.
Bit like me, Alex.
Exactly, exactly, Trev.
And to be honest, you know, the Wenger statue was unveiled outside the stadium, and there was other people who have been all over the internet over the years, and were anti a manager, and they go and take a photograph in front of that. I think, you know, especially when you've got that sort of vileness about you, that you take a picture in front of a man that you've castigated that many times. So I'm just on my high horse. I'll get off it now.
We all know who you're speaking of.
He's right outside my entrance, Wenger. So he's looking down upon the entrance there, and he's looking down upon a great Tony Adams, which is fantastic, right? Fantastic. But I can't get it out of my head about the fans and the atmosphere thing, Ferg, right? And I know we're going to close shortly, but I was talking to someone earlier this week, right? And they really got me listening. They're very knowledgeable. And if you go back to where we were 4, 5, 6 years ago, right? Football's a team game, right? Football's a team game, and you can come along for the ride and play in that team, right? And be part of that team, right? And that's it. Or you can play in that team game and you can try and influence from within that team, right? And you can try and look to do things within that team that are going to influence the game. And we've gone from having maybe 1 or 2 of them on the field 5 or 6 years ago, right? We had a lot of players on the field that weren't really bothered, I think, in my view, to now, when an Arsenal team takes the field now, I challenge anybody to tell me which one of them isn't going to influence the game in some way. They are all going to influence the game. They're all going to do something that's going to make us want to shout and cheer. And that is a massive part of getting the fans going as well, you know, because as a fan, we stand there and we see that effort and we support it, you know.
And we feel connected to the players as well.
Exactly. We're in such a good place, Alex, at the moment. We really are.
And like Sophie said, you go into the armory and you think, shit, who am I going to put on the shirt? I mean, there's so many players in the team that are so liked by the fans.
Yeah, exactly.
Trull's comment down below about Sophie. She didn't have a beard, so why was she invited on the show? we diversify and we bring people, non-bearded people on the show. So that's what we do. That's what we do. Trev, we've got Sunday. All going well. We're off to Wembley, meeting up for a few beers in East London, and going to get the Metropolitan line out there. Try and get in the ground about an hour beforehand to get the atmosphere going again. We've got the Emirates Cup. I'm not going to the Emirates Cup on Wednesday night. I know there's lots of people going, but I don't think any of the regulars are going. I think it's almost one that you step away and let somebody bring their kids and stuff like that. But I also feel that the tickets were a little bit overpriced. Alex?
Yeah, we went last season, didn't we? I mean, it's good fun, but I think it might be because of the Community Shield why people are maybe not going to the Monaco game.
Alex is sold out, mate. Now sold out, mate. Now,
yeah,
Monaco game. Yeah, they've sold it out, mate.
But yeah, I mean, everything's going to sell out with the Arsenal at the moment.
Of course it is. Of course
it is. And go on. The only last thing I was going to talk about was you're saying everything's sold out, but I don't know how people are getting tickets, because I put in the ballot for the Man United game. I know that you put in for the ballot for a few games as well to come over, Alex. I don't know very many people getting tickets, and it probably goes back to the question that Sophie asked Arteta just about just general ticketing rather than just only the Ashburton Army. It's a complete mess up. I know they're trying to stop touts, but there's got to be a better way, isn't there?
It's difficult, isn't it? Because there is such high demand. So how do you decide who gets the tickets? I mean, they could implement more sort of the loyalty into the home games as well. But for me, like the ballot right now, it's pretty much the same as last season, because last season was kind of like the lottery as well. If you got through the queue or not, it was completely random, which the ballot is as well now. But yeah, it seems like people are having trouble getting tickets. I haven't really seen many people get tickets through the ballot, but yeah, I guess we'll have to see throughout the season how it goes.
It's an interesting one, Alex. Spencer asked the question: can you buy tickets as resale? Yeah, if a season ticket holder or someone buys a ticket and then they can't go, Spencer, they can put it on the ticket exchange. So that means you sort of sell your ticket back to the club, and they pay you the money for it, and then the club will sell it on to someone else that wants it.
And there will be quite a lot on the ticket exchange.
You see, the thing is,
I haven't seen any yet. I've only seen one ticket since we've been looking, and that was sitting in your dad's lounge.
Yeah.
Said, right? I think the ballot is a bit of a farce. I think there's better ways they could have done it, but I'm being a bit hypocritical there because I'm not quite sure what way. But it needs to be said, right, that 4 or 5 seasons ago, when we were poor, people were giving tickets away. You couldn't sell a ticket for the Arsenal, right? People were giving tickets away. And those people that were going during the real bad nights, really real bad times, and still trying to get behind the team, they do deserve some kind of recognition. I know there's got to be new fan input. I accept that, right? But people also need recognition for being lifelong supporters through thick and thin, good and bad, right? And I needed to say that.
No, I agree. I personally, I think they've got too many members in each slot, and like in particular the red memberships. Like with the silvers, you get 3,500, so it's almost 1 in 10, 1 in 12. I think it's a 12% chance of getting a ticket as a silver member. But they've got about 200,000 red members going for like 3,500 tickets. It's just,
I feel like that doesn't work, the silver and the red membership thing. I think they should look to redo that, because that just doesn't seem to work.
I think that's where there needs to be some work. Guys, we will come back next week, hopefully with very little voices and a hangover after the Community Shield. We'll be there regardless. I just want a good day out. I'd like no injuries. A good game. If we get a result, it's brilliant. If we don't, it's a friendly.
Whatever.
You know, it's a good day out. It's more about being back with our mates and everything again. Trevor, any Trevor time?
Not really. I think I've said enough tonight, haven't I? I think I've said enough tonight. All I will say is that regardless of how difficult the tickets are to get, regardless of who goes to the games, take the lead from the rest of the fans over there. Blast out North London forever before the game starts. Even if you're not keen on it, which most of us are keen on it, blast it out, because we know that the players listen for it now. We know that it lifts the players. And if you're a fan, it don't matter if you like the song or hate the song, blast it. Let them players know we're all there. And just keep going. Ashburton Army, some people get the hump with them. Some people like them. I love what they've done within the ground. I love the fact that they're there changing the whole atmosphere within the ground, and we're all going along for the ride. So let's just enjoy the season. We're going to have a great season. We really are. We are going to finish top of the league.
I've never been this excited for a season before.
No. It's amazing.
I got excited at the end of last season, probably a little overexcited, but hey, it was worth it. But I'm trying to keep my lid on it a little bit for this season. We'll talk about predictions and stuff probably next Monday when we look ahead to the Forest game. Alex, Trev and Sophie in our absence, thank you very much for joining us. Everybody in the chat, thank you for joining us. It's been really good to have everyone back again and see all the familiar names. You have been watching a Guns and Yellow Ribbons podcast. See, my voice hasn't got any better. I still mess everything up. An Arsenal podcast by Arsenal fans, for Arsenal fans. Up the arse.
Thanks for listening to Guns and Yellow Ribbons, an Arsenal podcast by Arsenal fans for Arsenal fans. Follow us on Facebook at Guns and Yellow Ribbons or Twitter at Guns and Ribbons. And remember to rate and review us too. Up the Arsenal.